Good morning, everybody. Hope you are as excited as I am. We're going to have a bit of a foreign policy show today. Just a small skosh of what's going on here in the States, but the majority of what we're going to talk about is what's going on in Central and Eastern Asia, Western Asia. We're going to talk about Moscow. Russia. Russia is burning. Putin is having a no good, very bad day. So let's get to it. Fill your coffee cups, grab a pen and paper for the round table at the end. We're going to have a lot of discussions. There's a lot to cover. This is going to be really fascinating, folks. Let's do this. Good morning, everybody. If you've been awake, you've seen the news. Russia is having a bit of a problem. Things have just fallen apart in all different directions for Russia. We're going to talk about what's happening, but more importantly, we're going to talk about why. So let's get into the what first. You've heard about the terrorist attack in Moscow, the Crocus Theatre. It was brutal, folks. It was horrific. 4 gunmen pinned the audience into the theater, and they just had them back to an area with no exit and just opened fire on them. We have 133 confirmed dead. The wounded far exceeds that. It was just a horrific attack. It was bad. It was bad. And there are a lot of questions coming out of this because the first thing that Putin did was run to a camera and blame Ukraine. And, a lot of people made assumptions that this had something to do with Ukraine, but it actually had nothing to do with Ukraine. Which is actually worse for Russia. It would actually be better if it had been Ukraine. Russia is facing a lot of its chickens coming home to roost. The folks that carried this out were recruited by ISIS. I won't call them part of ISIS. They weren't really part of ISIS. ISIS is split into 2 different primary factions. The Islamic State is basically split into 2 large organizations that are under one umbrella of ISIS and the Islamic State. The one responsible for this is known as ISIS-K. They are the ones that operate out of Afghanistan and Pakistan. And we're going to go to the map in a little bit and explain why that's important. And yes, it was ISIS. The conspiracy theorists are having a ball with this, partially because of the ineptness in which Russia handled this is just feeding the conspiracy theory rumor mill. It's just absolutely astounding. We've actually seen this before in the attacks, Ukrainian attacks on the different refineries, how long it takes Russia to respond to these. We had on the Lukoil refinery attacks we just had a few weeks ago, the drones were identified around midnight, didn't engage in their attacks until 3:30 in the morning, and the Russians just didn't respond. They just didn't respond. We have a similar situation here where you have an ISIS attack taking place in Moscow proper. And it took them an hour and a half to respond. An hour and a half to respond. There's a military base 9 minutes from the Crocus Theatre by car. It's 9 minutes away. It's one of the major military bases responsible for the defense of Moscow. And it took them an hour and a half to pull their head out and do anything about this. It's really amazing how badly they responded. And this is feeding into a lot of conspiracy theories. You're saying, oh, it's a false flag, and this, and that's being fed because Putin came out and immediately blamed Ukraine. They immediately blamed Ukraine. He actually went on camera and blamed Ukraine. And the security forces just engaged in a horrific. We've got really. I'm not going to show the video, folks. I'm just not. The first couple, the gunmen split up and went in different directions. This comes to us from Julia Davis over at the Daily Beast. Some first-class journalism. Telegram is really horrific, folks. I don't like to lift videos from Telegram. I don't. They are uncensored, unfiltered. I've got a still image here for you. The security forces in Russia, they captured two of the gunmen almost immediately. They split up and went two different directions. They were interrogating, torturing him. They were torturing the guy. And I just want to just stop for a second and talk about that. Torture is useless. It really is. It is really useless. I will dig up a video for you folks. It's a CIA, a professional CIA interrogator talking about torture. Goes back to the old Abu Ghraib, scandals, where he was talking about just how stupid torture is. Because mentally, if you're being tortured, you're going to do anything to stop it. And if someone is stupid enough to torture, they're going to be stupid enough to give away signs of what they want through the questions they ask. And you're going to formulate answers in your head to make the torture stop. You're going to tell them what you think they want to hear. And I remember, the CIA interrogator talking about, and this was a real CIA interrogator that got real vital actionable intelligence, talking about how he made inroads into ISIS. He's got more information with a Coca-Cola and a plate of cheese than these idiot contractors working for the Trump administration got, for the Bush administration got, by torturing members of the Islamic State. Torture doesn't work, folks. And the Russians are just intensely stupid. They really are. When it comes to dealing with these situations, they're intensely stupid. This guy, there's video of this. You're more than welcome to go to Telegram and watch it. I won't play it. They sliced his ear off and forced him to eat it. So that he would tell them Ukraine did this, that he was working for Ukraine. He was not working for Ukraine. He wasn't. He's Tajik. He was recruited by ISIS. And yes, Jason, I don't recommend the video. It is horrific. I have seen it. It is horrific. They slice his ear off and feed it to him. And Telegram will scar you for life. I don't recommend it, but I will not show those videos. The goal here was to get him to confess that it was Ukraine. It was not Ukraine. The second group, the other two shooters were picked up trying to flee to Belarus. Again, they were Tajik. They were recruited by ISIS, and we're gonna go to the map and talk about that here in just a second. This is where they were taken down and on their way to Belarus. But Putin came out again, feeding the conspiracy theorists, comes out and says, "Oh, they were on their way to Ukraine. They were not on their way to Ukraine." Let's go to the map. See this little village of Saraz here? This is where they were arrested, 16 miles from Belarus. Let's back out so that you can see. Here's Moscow where the attack, southern Moscow where the attack occurred. They fled south through Bryansk. And then here in the little village of Pochep, they took this little 2-lane highway and started to head towards Belarus. And now that the cat's out of the bag and it's obvious that it's not Ukraine, information is starting to come out. They had rubles on them. They didn't have Ukrainian currency. They had Russian rubles. Their car was licensed in Belarus. But if you see the highway here, one second. You see this little highway here. Comes to where they were picked up here in Saraz, just south of Saraz, in between Lesno and Saraz. They were arrested trying to flee to Belarus. They were not from Ukraine. They were not sent by Ukraine. In fact, it's blowing up in Putin's face right now because we warned them. We warned them in advance that this attack was imminent. Back on March 7th, we have an agreement with Russia. If we ever find out about a terrorist attack, if our intelligence sources ever pick up on an attack in Russia proper, we have an agreement with Russia that we will share that information with them. Edward Cooley says, "Good morning, Texas Paul. Love the show. Today is my birthday. Happy birthday." Everybody say happy birthday to Edward Cooley. He's 62 today. Glad you could be here, amigo, and thanks for the support. Thanks for sending me a gift on your birthday. But yeah, everybody is blowing up because the conspiracy theories are going wild. Is this a false flag attack? Did Putin do this himself? No, he didn't. He's just been incredibly inept. We warned them that this was going to happen, which is feeding the conspiracy theories. We had issued warnings to our own diplomatic staff and families to avoid shopping malls, avoid concerts, avoid any large gatherings. Don't do that. And they knew it was coming. They knew it was coming. Yet their response, it took them an hour and a half to respond to this. They didn't act on any of the intelligence we sent them. This is Tajikistan. This is where they were from. Z says, Russian murderers know no international boundaries. They just do what Putin pays them to. Putin is getting sloppy promise. Now, actually, see, it really wasn't Putin. This is chickens coming home to roost. Thanks for the support, Lucky Star. I appreciate it. This is chickens coming home to roost. This, my friends, is Tajikistan. This is where All four of the gunmen were from. They speak perfect Russian because this all used to be part of the Soviet Union. There's a large Russian ethnic uh, uh, part of their demographic. Same with Kyrgyzstan. By the way, the hero of this situation was a 15-year-old boy that charged in and got people out, opened up a door for these people to flee. He was Kyrgyz, by the way. He was from Kyrgyzstan. There is a large in Crocus, that area of Moscow. There are, uh, you know, foreigners, for the lack of a better way to put it. It is an ethnically diverse area, and it just irony that the murderers, the terrorists, were from Tajikistan, the Dushanbe area, but the hero was Kyrgyz, from Kyrgyzstan. The reason this happened, the reason ISIS attacked Russia, ISIS uses any conflict, any bad relation, any bad feelings as a crack to dig their fingernails in. They love misery. That's why Hamas loves Gaza. They want to keep it miserable because they can feed off the miserable. You get young men that have been abused, that do not have jobs. It's the same formula all over the world. It is. It is just the same formula all over the world. And the Russians were brutal in this region. You remember back, if you're as old as I am, you remember their invasion of Afghanistan, how brutally they suppressed the Afghan people. And why the Afghans, we trained the Mujahideen and helped drive them out of Afghanistan and this region. There's a reason for this, folks, and it's 3 letters. 3 letters. And it's the reason for all wars, all modern wars. Oil. Oil. This region is swimming in oil. The Russians want it. They've always taken it. They've always abused the local population to control their energy, because that's all Russia is a gas station. Blue Wave Odyssey says, keep up the great work getting the message out. Trump is dangerous to our democracy. Amen. Amen, brother. Amen. There are other things going on. We're going to put a pin in this, and we're going to pause this for just a moment and talk about 2 of the other events that are going on in Russia right now, because they're actually all tied together. Right now in the Belgorod region of Russia, let's pull up a map so you can see that. This is Belgorod. There's been an incursion of Russian, the Serbian Legion and the Freedom for Russia region has pushed into Russia. They tried this back in 2023 and failed. They're having success this time. It is really, really successful. This is looking like a civil war has broken out. They're getting local support. It is really ramping up. This isn't like 2023, where the Russians controlled the Kharkiv region and they could really suppress this. They could cut off supply lines. That is not what's happening this time. You see Moscow proper, and then Kursk is the other region that they pushed into here, Kursk, pushing northward. Belgorod is taking the brunt of it right now. And right now there is constant shelling going on. We've got great video. Again, Telegram is full of much more brutal videos, but I like to pull them off of the news sources that post them to XChan. This is Belgorod, just one of the. It's arbitrary shelling going on within the city of Belgorod right now. You're seeing News Bill says, thank you and your family for all you. I appreciate it, guys. I really appreciate all the support. I do. You make this possible. The Russians that control Belgorod have gotten the message, and they are moving civilians, starting with children. 9,000 children have been evacuated out of Belgorod because the persistent shelling. This isn't just a, hey, run across the border, raise some hell, and run back to Ukraine for safety. No, they are there to stay. This is really picked up steam, folks. This is going to be news for the next 6 months. It's really amazing what these and they're Russians, folks. This isn't even Ukrainians. These are Russians. This is the Siberian Legion and the Freedom for Russia region. These are Russians trained by Ukraine, supplied by Ukraine, that are fighting in Russia to topple Putin. That is their goal. And they are picking up steam. This is amazing to watch. This is history unfolding. It is incredible. And it is not the only problem that Putin is facing right now. Sevastopol is under attack directly from Ukraine. Tess Lake says, morning, Texas, Paul. Thanks. I appreciate the support. I really do. I really do. Ella Brooks, I really appreciate you. I really do. Thank you. And you are right, Loves Alaska. Putin must go. And we're going to tie all this together here in just a minute. I want to tell you what's happening, and in just a minute, we're going to talk about why it's happening. This is some footage out of Sevastopol. This is not one-off missile attacks. This is sustained, ongoing, as we speak, attacks in Sevastopol. This is the headline out of Reuters. Ukraine rains missiles on Sevastopol, Crimea. Russia installed, official says. Even their own apparatus, their own stooges are saying, yeah, this is bad. This is bad. And this is just a reminder. This is Sevastopol. Let's go to the map for a second. This is Russian controlled Crimea. This is Sevastopol on the Black Sea. The Ukrainians are hurling cruise missiles into Sevastopol, just lobbing them continuously into Sevastopol. The importance of Sevastopol is this is the headquarters for the Black Sea Fleet, the Russian Black Sea Fleet. And it is through the Black Sea Fleet that Russia controls the Black Sea and the oil pipelines, control over the oil pipelines that run across the Black Sea and into the Baltics. And the Baltics are the new push for the oil industry and moving oil into Europe. See, we were talking about Tajikistan and why it was important. That region is full of oil. And a perfect example of what's going on with Russia and the weakening of Putin. See, stop for a second. What have you heard? What have you heard? If you're on social media, what have you heard? BRICS. Oh man, BRICS. That's the future. Look at that. Brazil, Russia, India, China, all getting together, and they're the future. Always, it's the same damn message out of these right-wingers on social media. America's over and somebody else is the new power. Always. That's their message today. That's their message today. No, BRICS is not the future. BRICS is not the future. And let's talk about why. This is Russia's major sphere of influence in the energy market. That's what Russia is. It's a one-trick pony. It's a gas station with a military. It really is. It's a gas station with the military. It's always has been. You know, the Germans in World War II came this close to winning World War II. They really did. It was idiocy on the part of Hitler interfering with his generals that cost them World War II. Just a side note here as we get into what is the cause. Why did this attack in Moscow happen? Go back to World War II. The Germans had dominated this region. They were heading south to Baku. Baku is Central Asian version of Houston. There are more 10-gallon hats in Baku than there are in a lot of the South. I'm telling you. You'll find more of these hats in Baku than you will in most of the southern United States. This is a huge focus for the American oil industry in Azerbaijan. We have good relations with Azerbaijan. These oil fields in the Caspian Sea, this is one of the richest energy dense areas in the world. And during World War II, the Germans had poured through Ukraine. They were heading south to capture the Caspian oil fields. Had they done that, Russia was done. They could not fight. You see Volgograd here. Volgograd used to be known as Stalingrad. It was a militarily insignificant target, but it was called Stalingrad. Hitler, being arrogant, said, "I want you to capture Stalingrad." The generals were like, "Why? Why? We are already far south. The Germans were already in this region. They were on their way to controlling the Caspian oil fields. Had they continued on, Germany wins World War II. But Hitler says, no, go north, capture Stalingrad because it's got Stalin's name. And the rest is history. And the rest is history. But those that knew you want to control the Caspian Sea. But Hitler was an idiot. Hitler was an idiot. Thank God Hitler was an idiot. That leaves us with Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, and you can't really take Uzbekistan. You can't really take these nations independently because Russia's behavior in all of these nations has been very similar. Kazakhstan used to be a very tightly controlled part of the Soviet Union, and they won their independence in the 90s. They kept a tight relationship with Russia. They still have a strong relationship with Russia, and I'm going to show you why here in just a second. The Cosmodrome, where Russia launched all their version of Cape Canaveral, is right here in Kazakhstan. This is where they launch all their rockets from. Kazakhstan is moving away. The war in Ukraine is pushing Kazakhstan away from Russia because they do not want to go back. They see what Putin's trying to do, and they do not want to go back. Anybody that understands why we have wars, anybody that understands what the root of all these conflicts are, no. Putin's move into Ukraine was about oil. Kazakhstan was next. Kazakhstan has 3% of the world's oil reserves. Russia is moving south next. That is the plan. And this is a huge reason why, right here. This is the Druzhba oil pipeline. Our European audience, a lot of you are Danish, German. I don't think we have any Poles in the audience. I haven't seen any. This is the Druzhba oil pipeline. This is how Kazakhstan gets its oil and gas to the lucrative European market. You notice it is all in Russia until it hits Belarus. Belarus is a puppet of Russia, and it flows through Ukraine. The war in Ukraine is about cementing control in the future of these oil reserves. That's what it's really about, folks. At the end of the day, it's always about oil, and it always will be. See, Kazakhstan could, they sell oil to Russia, and going back to BRICS, talking about BRICS, and these right wingers that are always talking about the demise of America and the future of the world is, it's China. Remember, they told you, invest in China, invest in China. China's freaking collapsing because of currency manipulation. Russia, their economy is always a joke because they never just do business like we do in the West. Just get your hands off of it. Let business do what business does. So Putin, who's arguably the world's wealthiest man, got that way because he takes a taste. He takes a taste. He takes a taste from Gazprom. He takes a taste from Lukoil. Well, Kazakhstan really isn't having it anymore. See, Kazakhstan's largest oil company isn't Russian. It isn't Gazprom. It isn't Lukoil. It's Kazmunay Gas. And Kazmunay Gas is a 50% partnership with the Kazakh government and around a 50%. There's a 5% stake for a Lukoil subsidiary. That's where Putin gets his taste. But the remainder of that partnership, the Kazakh government doesn't operate any of the oil fields in Kazakhstan. All they do is they control the pipelines to the lucrative European market. The two companies that actually operate the Kazakh oil and gas fields are Chevron and Exxon. Those are the other two partners in Kazmunay Gas. I appreciate you, Catherine Sophocles. That you're Greek, right? That Sophocles, that's Greek. That is what's going on with Kazakhstan. Putin's invasion of Ukraine and its failure, it was a massive roll of the dice. It was an attempt to reassert control over a huge portion of the world's energy. Right now, they control the pipelines going into Europe. That's changing. Kazakhstan, I mean, think about it. Kazakhstan, they sell about 20% of their oil to China. They sell a portion to Russia, but the vast majority of it goes to Europe. Why? Well, it's the same reason drug dealers sell in the United States and Europe. It's not easy. The infrastructure is not easy. Let's draw a parallel to drugs. Let's just not make it oil. Why, if you are an Asian drug manufacturer, why are you selling in America? I mean, you can sell in China. They're more cheap. You have a larger market in China. There are more people, more drug users, more drug addicts. Why sell in America? Why LA? Why Chicago? Why go to that trouble? Money. Hard currency, unmanipulated, real hard currency that is worth something. You make more money selling in Europe and America. The same holds true for oil. People like to confuse it. Don't. If you just understand the oil, you understand the wars and you understand where this is going in the future, which is what I want to talk to you about next. Let's take a look. Just look at the map. This is the center right here. This is the center of one of the world's largest energy reserves, the Caspian Sea, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, all of this. Right now, Russia has their boot on their throats. They control the northern pipelines. Energy companies, Exxon has an arrogant statement that they make. American presidents come and go, but Exxon is forever. Yeah, they kind of feel the same way about Russia. They're tired of that game. And all of the new pipelines are heading south through the Caspian, through ground zero, which is Turkey. If you look at all of the political pushes in the Caucasus Mountains here, in Georgia, Azerbaijan, huge outreaches through Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, they're all pushing oil pipelines that run south. They're cutting Russia out of the mix. The pipelines run through the Black Sea, up through the Balkans to feed Europe. Because that's where the money is, folks. That's where the money is. Look at what's going on domestically. Jared Kushner just made huge real estate buys on the Balkan coast. Serbia is trying to do their pro-Russian thing again. They're threatening Kosovo again. Why? Why? Doesn't make sense. Slovakia just had an election here. Slovakia. Up here, Slovakia. There's Czechia. So you remember Czechoslovakia? It's now Slovakia and Czechia. They just had an election. They have a very pro-Russian, very pro-Putin prime minister. And there's been a huge backlash about that. Everything that Putin did in Ukraine is blowing up in his face. They just had elections for president. The pro-Putin, pro-Russian candidate got creamed. He got 10% of the vote. The two candidates that are pro-independent, let's not bow down to Russia, they did. Peter Pellegrini and Ivan Korkok, they dominated. The huge surprise was Ivan Korkok, because he is a huge pro-European, pro-EU, he is a let's do business kind of guy who does not like Russia and all of their nonsense that's going on in Ukraine. And he won handily. 7 points. When they have the runoff between Pellegrini and Korkok, Korkok's going to win, which is the exact opposite. If you follow the politics in the region, is the exact opposite of what everybody's telling you. If you look at the social media, the Putin-controlled trolls on our social media. Everybody's loving Russia, and everybody's having these pro-Russian elections, and it's not true. It's just not happening. It's just not happening. And what's at the root of it? Oil. Oil. Again, pull up the map. This is the Balkans. The oil pipelines run across the Black Sea, through Turkey, and into the Balkans. This is the ground zero for all of your important politics going into the future. We had a dust up in the Middle East. We've had a dust up in the Middle East, and our relationship with the Saudis has cooled. And the Saudis are pissed off because, they've been in a pushing match with Iran over who controls the region. Well, America, the people here that really run things, know Saudi Arabia is not the future of the Middle East. Neither is Iran. We're not concerning ourselves with our relationships really with either one of them. Because the future, the real conflicts, the real challenges, and the real work that's being put on is Turkey. What's going on with Turkey? Well, first of all, just look at where they are on the map. You have massive oil reserves trying to get that lucrative European market. You've got Putin failing to solidify his control of the northern oil routes. People are turning their backs on the Russian pipelines going into the future. And all of the investment is through the Black Sea, through Turkey, into the Balkans. So what's happening now that's going to drive our politics 10 years from now? Well, Turkey has almost completed modernizing their military. Their main battle tank used to be our old Patton battle tank. They modernized them, put some electronics on it. They're replacing those. They have bought the new Black Panther. They're incredibly expensive. They didn't wait for the Abrams X's, and they didn't buy Leopards. They bought the Black Panther tank from South Korea, which is arguably the best tank in the world right now. It's arguably the best tank in the world right now. Bought an entire fleet of them. They're giving their old F-16 fighters, their old Eurofighters to Ukraine. In the next couple of years, Turkey will have replaced its old last century Air Force with F-35s. And when they're done, they're going to swallow Syria. Erdogan has already said this next century is a new Ottoman Empire. They're not making any bones about this. They're being open with it. Erdogan has said the next century you will see a new Ottoman Empire. That means he will move south. He will swallow Syria. He will swallow Lebanon. He will make deals with Jordan and Israel. And he will control this key region that you can see is incredibly critical to a massive portion of the world's energy market. And Russia will be a thing of the past. That's why Russia is in Ukraine. That's why they're desperately trying to control Crimea, because if they control Crimea, they control the Black Sea. And if they control the Black Sea, they remain somewhat relevant in the future oil market. And it really is that simple, folks. That's the part they're not telling you out loud. And what's driving all of this? It drove the attacks in Moscow. That's why ISIS was able to recruit in Tajikistan and attack Moscow. Yeah, it's idiot ideology, but really it's just their business. ISIS is a business. They're in the chaos business. Hell, they just had the largest terror attacks in history that you never heard of. Sri Lanka, of all places. Sri Lanka. Over 400 people dead. And it didn't even make our news. It didn't even make our news. That ISIS is not a key player in this. They aren't. They're just the actors lashing out, using the angst against Russia and going back to Kazakhstan, which is the big player in that region. They're telling you what they want to do. They don't want to do business with China. They don't want to do business with China. They don't. Getting some questions fed to me in the background there. People asking about BRICS. We'll talk about that in the roundtable. I'll get to those questions in the roundtable at the end. But no, they don't, because look at China. Look at their currency manipulation. There's no real benefit to being long-term invested in China. Not the United States of America. If you can reach Crimea, maybe the U.S. Some of NATO countries can lease Russian base from that. That's exactly what Putin is terrified of. That's why he keeps talking about nuclear war. Putin's money and power comes from taking his taste out of all of the oil that Europe buys. Our European audience, every time you put fuel in your tank or pay your gas bill, a portion goes to Putin himself, directly to Putin. I don't mean his government or his organs. I mean, Putin takes a taste. And if he loses Crimea, he gets a pro-NATO country that is pro-business controlling Crimea, controlling Sevastopol, essentially controlling the Black Sea, which opens up routes through the Black Sea for pipelines. And that's what it's really about, folks. And the Republicans in our country have said, we're on Putin's side. They have. We're on Putin's side. Hawk says, this will never end, will it? No. No. You know when it ends? Really? You know when it ends? When our kids, our young children, or in my case, my grandchildren, are my age, and they keep forcing renewables. And a large portion of our car market are electric cars. And the focus on oil subsides. Because right now, this really is, and it always has been, going back to World War I, what Lawrence of Arabia and the English battle in Arabia, what was that about? Oil. It was about oil and control of the Suez Canal. Oil shipping. For our modern history, every war goes back to oil. The attack in Russia goes back to oil. ISIS was able to recruit Tajiks that had been treated horribly by the Russians while they were raping their natural resources. And that's how we got our terrorist attack. Sevastopol is being rained on by Ukrainian cruise missiles over control of a region that is really about oil. And energy. When we wean ourselves, this isn't some like hippie tree hugging thing. If you really want this to stop, you really have to force a change in technology that business doesn't want to do. Oh, man, I hope your coffee's as good as mine. Woo, just got a fresh pot. What is it with that first cup of coffee that comes off of? You can always tell the difference between that first cup of coffee that comes off a pot. I don't know. Yes, the U.S. is still the largest consumer of oil. We are. We're also the world's largest producer of oil. But yeah, folks, that is really it. That is what's really driving this. That's what the fighting in Belgorod, where children are having to be evacuated. That is Ukraine fighting for their independence, their ability to join the European Union and just do business. You really want to know the difference between the Russians and us, the Europeans and the Americans and the Russians, the difference between the two? Our governments just let people do business. The Russians control everything. They take huge amounts of it's not just a little taste. Putin is the wealthiest man on the planet. His oligarchs. It's all in just disgusting corruption. And that's why I wanted to talk to you about BRICS a little bit. Brazil, Russia, India, China, all of these right-wingers, man. They always sell the same thing. America's doomed. We're yesterday. There's somebody else that's coming along that's going to be tomorrow. No. And the European Union, our European allies, our European audience, love you folks being here. I love you folks being here. There's this whole independence thing. Everybody has their own nationality, their own. Man, the European Union is going to be a thing. By the time your grandchildren die, Europe's going to look a lot like the United States, where our individual states don't really have there are cultural differences and this, that, and the other, but, not, I don't even, somebody keeps mentioning South Africa as part of BRICS. I don't even mention South Africa. South Africa is a joke. It is a joke. It really is a joke. Brazil, they're not a big oil player. They aren't. Why are they part of BRICS? Brazil's focused on a different commodity, food. Again, it's always about just what you need, the basics you need. You need energy in a modern world. But the other thing's food. Brazil's figured that out. If you buy meat here in the United States, I assure you, more often than not, you're buying it from a Brazilian company. Pilgrim's Pride, most of your chicken, huge amount of your pork. The largest meat company in the world is Brazilian. Yeah. They've just taken another commodity like oil and said, hey, we're going to be it. We're going to control that. But I don't want to get too far off in the weeds. BRICS is not the future, folks. China can't help itself. There's a reason Kazakhstan isn't looking to China. Yeah, they've got a border with them. They've got a relationship with them. Hey, guys, we get along. But no, they're not looking to China as their future. Why not? It's one of the largest markets in the world. Why not? You know who's figured this out and is going to be a huge force going forward, other than, of course, Turkey? India. India gets it. India gets it. India understands capitalism. They really do. And they are going to be a huge force in the future. And they've turned their back on BRICS. Going forward, with the sanctions, BRICS tried to buck sanctions. India said, oh, no, we're good. We'll do the sanctions. Winzeloff says China has a huge, huge housing crisis. They don't have a lack of housing crisis. They have we had a pretend economy where we built houses that nobody was buying. Ghost cities are real, folks. Ghost cities are real. Entire cities built in China that nobody lives in. Their economy was fake. That's why I tell you, stop listening to these right-wingers. They always sell the same message. It's always the same thing. What they don't have is any real knowledge of the region. They don't know what Casemate gas is. They don't know that those are American oil companies that run that. But yeah, Russia is burning today, folks, and it's just going to get worse because of the powers that be in Europe. You've got France talking about putting troops into Ukraine. And I mean, when I say France is talking about it, I don't mean it's just Macron anymore. Their news programs, kind of think of it as it is here. Their news programs are actually discussing where French troops would be stationed. Because France gets it. Don't make war, do business. When you have, just a few weeks ago, if you had talked to anybody in France about getting involved in the war in Ukraine, it was like 90%. No. Now today, their primetime news programs are having discussions about where French troops would be in Ukraine. Those shifts matter, folks. Those shifts really matter. And leadership matters. And when you say wars over oil, we naturally recoil from that. We do. But realistically, and this is what blows, I know Exxon executives. I personally know Exxon executives, okay? It blows their mind. They don't understand. They're so disassociated and with their own little bubble. They don't understand why we recoil from them so badly. Because they're like, we give you what you want. You want our oil. We influence things to keep oil coming to you. Why do you hate us? They don't get it, folks. They really don't, man. If you have a discussion, if you could sit down and talk to Rex Tillerson, he would seem like the most clueless SOB on the face of the planet who has no clue, no understanding why you don't like him. Because to them, they're just providing you what you want. But yeah, that's what I really wanted you to see. I really wanted to pull the curtain down because the way it relates to us is what you see from these right wingers on our social media and the things that they say and what the Republicans are doing. The Republicans have thrown in their lot with Putin. The rest of Europe has said, no, we're not doing that. We're ending their influence. We're going to support Ukraine. And we're going to have this new future where Putin doesn't have his thumb on the control of all of the energy in Europe and influence. Energy is a global market. What happens in Europe affects the rest of the world. And Russia has said, the Republicans, same thing, has said, no, we kind of like our Russia money. And I get that I'm lagging. I do. That's the best we can do in the internet in this region. And yes, I'm on the right internet. I keep getting a message. You're lagging. Are you on the right internet? Yes, I am. I am. But yeah, folks, I just want you to understand when we talk about Ukraine, it's not just freedom. It's not just pro-capitalism. It's not just stopping Russian terrorism. The folks that make the money in the background are looking at what is our energy policy in the next 20 years. And they're making those cold, calculated decisions. And that is why Ukraine's not going to lose. Europe's going to the mat on this one. Ukraine is not going to lose because you need energy. And they cannot allow Putin to reconstitute the Soviet Union and take even greater control. They already have a stranglehold with the pipelines. And Putin rolled his dice and said, I'm going to retake Ukraine. I'm going to retake Moldova. I'm going to control the way these pipelines run in the future. And Europe said, no, you're not. No, you're not. And that's what it really boils down to, folks. It's not sexy. It's not as good a sell as the freedom of the Ukrainian people. It is self-interest. It is really self-interest. And I really need you to know that the Republicans are all on board with Russia. And how does that apply to us? Our border. Folks, you're going to see another caravan come to our southern border really soon. Really soon. Because everybody's sick of hearing about the border. That was a Russian op, folks. There was no reality to it. We weren't being invaded. We had a bad immigration policy that came out of COVID in Title 42, which basically shut down all due process, made it a free run at the border. So they took advantage of it. People took advantage of it. That went away. That's gone. There's no crisis. But if you can sell a crisis, those that support Russia here in the United States can sell a crisis because they have nothing else. They did nothing for the last year. By the way, our government shut down again. We talked about the spending bill that was going through, that if they dragged their feet, they went on a vacation. They didn't work on funding our government. So yeah, the government, it was only for a few hours, but it did. It shut down again. It did. Our government shut down again, folks. It did. Briefly, but it shut down again. The Republicans have nothing. They've done nothing. They passed 27 bills in the last year in the Republican-controlled House. Congress, because they control the House. 3 of those bills were renaming buildings. 4 of them were just keeping the lights on. That's all. Just not collapsing. 4 of the bills were just collapsing. 27 bills. 4 of them were just not collapsing our government by not paying our bills. 3 of them were renaming buildings. Normally, Congress passes anywhere between 300 to 600 bills, depending on how productive a Congress is. So what do the Republicans have? The border. And who provides them the optics? Russia. Russia. And right now, because everybody's getting border boredom, we're tired of hearing it. They got caught with that agitprop that they did day before yesterday. Our border's under attack. Didn't fly. Everybody said, that's fake. That's fake. What's next? I guarantee you, a caravan. Right now, the Russians working out of the Russian embassy are hiring locals down in Mexico and Central America, and there's going to be another caravan. There will be. And our news organizations won't even bother to walk across the border when that caravan gets here. Thank you. Appreciate you, Michael Thomas. When that caravan gets here, will not even bother to walk across the border and ask people, how did you get here? Who approached you about coming? Oh, really? That person did? Let's go talk to that person. Why do you speak Russian? They won't. They'll just run with the clickbait. It's election season, folks. There's going to be another caravan. There just is. It's really that simple. And why? Why? Oil. Oil. Putin made a play to control a huge portion of the world's energy reserves, and he failed. The West right now is fighting to loosen his grip and his control. The Republicans chose their side. They went in with Putin. Because they get checks now. Look at what Lev Parnas said about Russia Ron Johnson and all of the Republicans that participated in the misinformation to attack Biden. It's not just politics. It's oil. It really is oil. And you can control this. You can. You really can control this. One, in the Republican Party, they are sellouts. They are traitors in them. Republicans did nothing. Then the Democrats finally pushed through a bill, an infrastructure bill. And being who we are, a lot of that infrastructure work is going on in the South, in red areas. So the Republicans voted against all of that. And when it passed anyways, due to the might and work of Democrats, they went back to their districts and told their districts, I got you this money. I got you this project. That was me. I did that. That's really going on right now, folks. Really. And if you want to just a taste of how stupid the theatrics are, I want you to look at this. Valentina Gomez, she thinks she's the future in Missouri. She's one of those dirty dogs that wants to shut the door behind her and not let anybody else immigrate into the country. She thinks she's going to be governor of Missouri one day. She's down there doing her photo op. I want you to take a look at this photo. She's holding chicken wire. Chicken wire. Brought some supplies to secure the border with chicken wire. What are you building, a chicken coop down there? It's all a show, folks. It's all a show. It's not real. You don't see any immigrants. No, just some stupid idiot standing holding chicken wire, talking about they're going to secure our border. It's an act. It's all theater. It's all theater. Well, that's what I got for you today, folks. And I realized it was a lot of foreign policy, and I realized it was a lot of looking at different countries and different. Oh, by the way, in this picture right here, the Druzhba pipeline, while all the wars are going on and the fighting is going on, yeah, this pipeline's flowing right now, this second. It's carrying Kazakh oil to Denmark, to Germany, to Austria, up to Scandinavia. They ship it out of the ports up there. It's flowing. It's flowing. You know, they can have their war, but they're not going to interrupt the flow of the oil. But yeah, that's what I have for you today, folks. I know the foreign policy can be a little bit much because you've got so many regions and so many things that are going on, and politics clouds it. If you just cut through it, and please, yes, hit the thumbs up button. If you just hit the thumbs up button, that will help other people that need to hear this. If you just cut through it and look at what you need. You need energy. You need housing. You need food. Who's controlling those? If you look at those, you can actually see, you can predict where conflicts will be. You can predict where our focus will be. You need water. Folks, this southern border stuff that they're doing right now, and I'll give you a cue into a future show here. We talked about energy. We didn't talk about housing. We talked about energy and food with Brazil. We'll talk more about that. Thanks for the support, Peter. I really appreciate you. Allows me to do this full time. Kabuki Theater. That's right, Jason. Kabuki Theater. If you just look at those things, and a big one's water. Water. Folks, things haven't changed. I'll Google it for you right now and share it with you. Mexico City water crisis. This is what pulls up. A city of over 20 million people is going to run out of water. And it's already starting. They're already jacking prices. Look at this Mexico News Daily. Water permits under scrutiny as Mexico City faces water scarcity. That's what's going to happen. It's not going to be just one day they're out of water. It's not. It's going to be, they're going to ramp up the costs of water. They're going to go and they're going to start going after the people that have been doing dirty deals under the table to get their unfair share of water. That's how it starts. That's how it starts, folks. LA Times, this mega city is running out of water. What will 22 million people do? Well, it's not going to be, like I said, it's not going to be just tomorrow they're out of water. It will be, they will ratchet up the price of water. And people will cut back on their usage. And then you'll get some right-winger saying, you said they were going to run out of water this summer, and they still have water. You're a liar. No, that's not the way it works. It isn't next summer, next July, they go to turn the tap on and then nothing comes out. That's not how it works. First, the government will start cracking down on its own grift, its own crime, its own corruption of people that were getting their unfair share of water. Then the next thing that will happen is they will start ratcheting up the price of water. Then they will start forcing people through laws to use less water, and they'll drag it out. But they won't have a sustainable source for 22 million people anymore. They will drive them out of Mexico City. They will force migration out of Mexico City because they don't have the water to support the population. Where are they going to migrate to? They're going to go south. A lot of, everybody thinks, oh, well, they're coming here. We're not. We're the fourth choice. If you look at where Mexicans migrate to, we're the fourth choice on the list. They prefer to go to other Spanish-speaking nations first. But yeah, about a quarter of those people that migrate out of Mexico City are going to come here. And that's why the Republicans and the Russians have been using that crisis to pre-taint the well, to try to ensure their power. They're doing nothing to help the problem at all. They know this is happening. The Republicans are going to try to capitalize on this crisis. They're pre-poisoning the well over immigration because they know starting this summer, there's going to be a lot of people in Mexico City wanting to live elsewhere. And if it's 2 million people, 500,000 of them are going to try to live here. If it's 5 million people, 1.25 to 1.5 million of them are going to try to live here. And they will have already staked out their position that immigrants are bad, they're coming to hurt you, all the while not doing anything to prevent it from happening. That's how Russia operates. That's why these countries, Kazakhstan, Turkey, the Balkans, that's why Slovakia just had an election where the people said, no, we're not doing this Russian shit anymore. Because they just live off one crisis to the next, to the next, to the next without doing anything about it. Vote for Democrats, folks. We don't wait for the world to frickin' end before we act. We tried to put judges and people in place to process immigrants because we know there's a wave of immigrants coming. They are. That's just happening, folks. That is happening this summer. And you see it. I want you to see it coming. Republicans are poisoning the immigration well now so that in the future, they don't have to do anything. They don't have to do anything. They just have to be against it. They don't have to work. Just be against it. This is a troll going away. Boom. Ban user and delete comments. It's that simple. All right, let's take a look at some of the comments that came in through the show. We're going to go into the roundtable. It's Sunday. We got all the time in the world, folks. One of the questions was about the false flag thing. Is it Putin attacking his own people so that he can blame Ukraine or blame it? No, it's not. It's not. This is the worst thing for Putin. This is the worst thing for Putin. There's no upside for him on this at all. He just had an election. Things are falling apart. Not an election, not a real election. He just reinstalled himself. And folks are watching. They're looking. They're looking. And this is not a good look. It's not. So no, this isn't the whole conspiracy theory, Putin false flag thing. It's not. They're just handling it like imbeciles. Another question that came up is, what is BRICS? BRICS is a political agreement signed between Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa to cooperate. And eventually they said they were going to create their own currency. They made a lot of promises. It's just a cooperation agreement. And they call it BRICS. Brazil, B, Russia, R, India, I, China, C, South Africa is the S, BRICS. Everybody on the right wing, because they always sell the same thing, oh, America's over. No, we're not, because the way we do business, we will last forever. Europe has figured out, the European Union has figured out, we need to have so many squabbling different factions, and we need to be a big bloc like America. That's what Europe is heading towards. They're going to be around forever. They're ensuring their future. New Kid says, please answer why NBC even hired Rona Romney. Okay, I'll talk about that here in just a second. I'll talk about that next, New Kid. Thank you for the support, by the way. BRICS, yeah, going back to BRICS. All these right-wingers, this narrative of it's always America's going to die. If you go back 5 years ago, they were telling you China's the future. China is the new dominant force in the world. Invest your money in China. Now look at it. Because of the way their inherent corruption, the way they do things. I'm sorry, could you pull that back up? I wanted to finish that thought. Sharon Reddy says, this summer internal migration will get noticeable as people primarily upper middle income flee the heat of retirement, Arizona, and water of the Gulf. Yeah. We're going to see our own internal migration. It's already happening in Texas, folks. We needed real tax reform here in Texas, and we got a boondoggle, a bamboozle. They took our surplus. We had a $30 billion surplus, and they threw that back at property owners and said, here's a tax break. And it wasn't really a tax break. It was just a shell game. They took money out of the schools and the schools pool, because that's how we pay for our schools here, is through our property taxes. They took a big chunk of that away. Then they took the surplus and filled that void for 1 year. What happens next year when that void is still there and there's no surplus to fill it with? They raise my taxes. People are fleeing Texas over taxes. We are. You know, there was after we had COVID and you had people that could work, they could hold a job in California, make California money, and they could buy a Texas cheap house. We had immigration. We had people leave California to come here. That's over. Those tech companies in California are saying, you have to be here. They're leaving Texas and going back. Your average poor person here in Texas that's bottom middle class that owns a house is getting killed. They're leaving Texas. That's the future, folks. Foreign policy education with Texas Paul Prices. Thanks for, hey, I appreciate it. I appreciate it, Christopher Garcia. I really do. I really do. But yeah, Rona McDaniel. Folks, the corporate media has been in bed with Republicans forever because Republicans have been long funded by corporate America where the money's at. You know, Kristen Welker, I use this as a perfect example. The day before she was supposed to sit down with Trump, the Trump folks, part of his orbit that became his Trump campaign, took Kristen Welker out for a lavish dinner, finest steaks, finest wine. They have been wining and dining. You know, if somebody needs to talk to the media, you'll see them. They'll be somewhere, but it's not the studio. It's an impromptu studio where they flew these people from the media out to someplace fancy to do an interview. This has been going on forever, folks. And hiring Ronna McDaniel is just this media bubble and how their Republican suck-upping that they've been doing forever, their complete unawareness that we're standing outside that bubble. And they really thought it was okay to hire Ronna McDaniel. They really did. Thought that was okay. Why not? They've been feeding her to get access forever. That's what that was all about. There's just the cluelessness among so many in the corporations, so many just they don't know where we're at. Oh, suburban housewife asked part of the roundtable. She asked, if the regime ends, who will take over Russia's leadership? Putin's regime is not going to end unless somebody gets a lucky shot. Putin will be there. Russia will collapse, and he will have a smaller and smaller fiefdom. But Putin is not going anywhere unless somebody kills him, unless one of the oligarchs kills him. If that happens, it will not be the people choosing it. The people of Russia have never chosen their leaders. That's why Putin installed himself. He's not a stupid man. He's installed himself as a czar. They don't really hold elections. The people know it. But Russia's never had a democracy in all of its history. They briefly tried it to create a democracy that never really got created, and that brought us Putin. It was never really a democracy. They have never in their existence been a democracy, though they wouldn't know what to do with it if they had it. So yeah, Putin's really not going anywhere unless somebody else kills him, which may happen. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. Oh, let's see. Some of the other questions have been coming in the roundtable. I appreciate you writing these out for me so I didn't miss them. Thanks for the support, Sue Clark. I appreciate it. Ray Lee asks, sometimes I can't watch the live feed, and used to be we could see the comments from the they're there. You just have to find them. If you're not watching the live, I get what you're at. I get it. I get what you're asking. Sometimes if you don't watch the live feed, you go watch the replay, you can't see the comments. They're there. They're there. We're not taking them away. They aren't. You have to select them. There's a way to select them in the upper right-hand part of your screen. Easier to find on a PC. Sometimes on a phone, for some reason, Google takes it away. If you're watching it on a phone, I don't know how you bring that up. I'm sure there's a way to bring the chat feature up to where you could see what's being said in the replay. But on a PC, I know it's in the upper right-hand corner. It just doesn't look like much. You'll see an X up there, and then it'll ask you if you want to see the chat. But you've got to scroll to the very top of the screen and look to the right, and it'll be there. We don't take that away. And I get, thanks for asking that question. Another question I get all the time is the closed captioning. Google does that for us. We have it selected to where they will process it actually slows down the distribution of the show a little bit because they're processing the show for the replays. but it takes an hour to sometimes 2 hours, and Google will put up closed captioning. If you have closed captioning selected, you'll get it. It's there, I promise you. But we'll get people that'll watch the replay immediately, and they're like, "Where's the closed captioning?" I'm like, it takes time, brother. It takes time. Someone asked, where does Georgia fall in the conflict? Do they, an interesting factoid about Georgia? He's talking about the country, not the state. Oh, cool. Good to see it, Tony. Good to see it. I love selling the mugs. I do. I think if you donate something or spend money, you ought to get something. The folks that donate to the show, you get the show. One of the questions was, where does Georgia fall in the conflict? Talking about the country. Interesting side note. Interesting fact. Did you know that Stalin was not Russian? He wasn't. He was Georgian. He was from Tbilisi. The Russians have a long relationship with folks down in the Caucasus. That whole portion of the world, the eastern portion of the Black Sea, the Caucasus Mountains, all the way up to the Urals, and there's been a long relationship there. Georgia is surprisingly, much like Kazakhstan, really seeing the future. And I'm telling you, our European folks, I'm telling you, I know the EU thing is uncomfortable. It's a change. You're used to being Danish. You're used to being Finnish. You're used to being Swedish. You're used to being Norwegian. You're used to being French. You're used to being Italian. Embrace the EU. It smooths out trade. You don't lose. Virginians here in the United States are still Virginians. Texans are still Texans. We still have our identities. We do. Embrace the EU. It will make you last forever. Because as long as you have good policies that let business do business, you will last forever. That's why people that say, oh, America's over. No, it's not. No, it's not. Never going to happen. Because you can go to the New York Stock Exchange and buy and sell stocks, and nobody is going to screw you. And if somebody tries to, we'll put them in prison for it. Not always that way in China. Not always that way in Russia. I'm telling you, folks. Lisa McBaron asked, will Marjorie Taylor Greene go through with removing Mike Johnson? She says she is. I have my doubts because the Republicans know that is suicide at this point in the election. It is suicide. You'll see mass retirement. You'll see them lose the majority over that. Yeah, Sharon Reddy says peace is built on fair trade. She's not wrong. So yeah, they're putting pressure on her right now to withdraw her motion, and I will be curious to see. I really don't know if they're going to make her. She might get enough support in her little caucus, but I don't think so. My instincts and my feeling are they're going to crush Marjorie Taylor Greene for this. R. Davey asks, could Texas leave the union? No, that's stupidity. That is just arrogant stupidity from the dumbest of the dumb here in Texas. The right wingers, the Republicans talk about, well, we'll just secede. No, you won't. You're not giving up your Social Security. Huge portion of our job base is basically government welfare. It's the military bases that we have here. We build your F-35s built in Fort Worth. They're not giving that up. No. It's loudmouth stupidity talk. I'm really liking this roundtable. Good questions. Good question. If you could, try to get the commenter's name in there. KP asks, what is the point of BRICS? Right now, the United States has a disproportionate amount of influence in the world because of the way we do business. It's really that simple. You can do business safely here. BRICS is attempting to create an alternative. But it's the worst of the worst coalescing together to try to make an alternative, to try to draw influence from us. That's really what it's about. BRICS is about trying to draw influence away from Europe and the United States. And it won't work. I love this. That's a great way to characterize it. Jenny Johnson says BRICS is the dictatorship version of NAFTA. Yeah, it's really, you're taking the worst manipulators and the most corrupt, and you're throwing them all into a group. And you've got like Brazil. They're not really into BRICS. They aren't. They joined to have influence in BRICS. India, same way. India is not like, well, we'll go along just to get along with you guys, because India does a huge amount of business with China, huge amount of business with Russia. They're like, oh, okay, yeah, we'll put our name on this. But no, they're not going along with what, the stupidest stuff that BRICS has to say. But I swear to God, folks, if you go to XChan right now and you do a search for BRICS, you will see 1,000 troll accounts that will tell you BRICS is the future, man. BRICS is the death knell of America. No, they're not. As long as we still keep providing a business environment where you can legitimately do business in this country and no one will hurt you, no one will take your shit, we will always be here. We will. For better or worse, our European audience, Australian audience, our Central American audience, I'm not being arrogant there. It's not that American exceptionalism shit. Oh, we're American, we're the greatest. No, it's not complicated, folks. It is a system of laws and institutions that will allow people to do business without being controlled or having corrupt people take away what they own. That's why America creates so many frickin' billionaires. Linda Orndo says, thanks, Texas Paul, for another great history lesson. Man, I'm trying to tie it to future politics. Oh, that's harsh, man. Michael Williams says, does Candace finally get to be white now? That's cold, dude. That is cold. Oh, have you seen the one that was, oh man. Woo. Have you seen the meme going around about Candace Owens that says, this is what Candace Owens sees when she looks in the mirror, and it's a picture of Katie Britt? Whew. Harsh. Oh, yeah. She just got fired from her gig. Everybody's celebrating Candace Owens. Everybody's having a little schadenfreude over Candace Owens getting fired from the Daily Wire. Sucking up don't work, folks. All right. Let's see. We'll see if we got another good question out there, another good comment. Nikki says, what about Trump's bond this week? That's Wednesday's show, Nikki. That's Wednesday's show. I have a feeling that they're going to move very, very quickly on Trump's properties. that they are not going to dawdle. They're going to move very quickly. They're already his Seven Springs property. They're already doing the preliminary paperwork to seize his property that's actually physically in New York. But yeah, Letitia James isn't sleeping on that. She is moving on that. I really, that's my prediction. I hate the crystal ball stuff, stick my neck out there, because things can blow up on you, and maybe Trump will be able to file an appeal, and maybe the appeals court will step in and try to stop them from taking property. I think Letitia James is really prepared for that, and she's going to come out like a racehorse from the chute, man. She's going to go after that property like crazy. They're going to seize his bank accounts first. That will limit his ability to fight. And then they're going, and it won't be enough. It won't be a fraction of what he owes, because the guy has no liquidity. Then they're going to go after his physical properties. Good question, by the way. All right. Larry Roseman says, what would it take to get Abbott, Paxton, Patrick out of here in Texas? A generation to die. Like, I'll be honest with you. Everybody's like, what are we going to do? It's a purple state. Yeah, it is. It is. Admitting you're wrong is one of the hardest things for a human being to do. And we have an entire generation and a half, actually, that have picked up that Republican identity. And it's really freaking hard to say I was wrong. So they're just going to have to die. I mean, really. And fortunately, they are. They are. The Republican base in this state is really, really old. They are. They're really, really old. Diane Turner asks, we will get to know who owns some of the floors in Trump Tower. Yeah, we will. And Trump is losing his mind over on his failing social media platform. Oh, that's another good one, by the way. The whole Truth Social thing and Digital World Acquisitions. The government's going after Digital World Acquisitions. Turns out they were playing some pretty crappy games with their investors. They were lying to their investors about the values. And imagine that, somebody involved with Trump lying about the value of something. But yeah, this whole Digital World Acquisition purchase of Truth Social may not happen. It may not happen. It's really looking like, and if you want to squawk and make noise about something, make noise about that. Because what Trump's going to do is he's going to take his Truth Social stock and he's going to sell it right away. As soon as Digital World Acquisition Corp does the stock swaps, he's going to sell that stuff as quick as possible to get some liquidity. And then he's really going to have $1 billion on his hands. And that's going to be a mess. You want to do something? Call the SEC and tell them to step in about Digital World Acquisition Corp, because there's enough there already to do it. Katy Perry asked about Manafort. Yeah, he's hiring Manafort back. The Russians, folks. It's all about the Russians. That's why they're bringing Manafort back. It's all about keeping Russian money coming in. All right, we got 1 minute left, and we're going to call this. And there was a good question that popped by. Shoot, I missed it. Well, folks, that's what I have for you today. Thank you for the roundtable. That was a great roundtable, great questions, and I appreciate you putting those questions up in the background. That really helped me not lose those questions. We need to keep doing that. That worked out great. I appreciate you being here, folks. I love talking to you. Just to recap for you, oil. It's about oil, and Ukraine will not lose. Europe, it's not just about preventing World War III in Europe. It's about the future of energy security in Europe, and they're not going to let Ukraine lose, because they're not going to let Putin reconstitute a death grip on that energy. Love you, folks. So Texas Paul out. Y'all have a wonderful day. Enjoy your weekend. You know what? Let me throw one more thing out there. We are not MAGA. Thank you. Share and like. Yeah, please hit the like button and hit the subscribe button before you leave. Appreciate it. Let's get this message out to a lot of people. You are not MAGA. You are happy, good, and decent people. It is spring. Enjoy it. This politics is very heavy. It is. I know. I have to stick my face in it every damn day. By the way, I got a new video coming out for with Midas Touch. Go check it out. I love those guys over at Midas Touch. We've got a new video coming out for them, talking about this whole Marjorie Taylor Greene situation. But get your face out of politics. It's spring, baby. Plant some flowers. Go to a nice outdoor restaurant. Enjoy a meal outside. Spend some time with your family. Breathe some air. You're good people living good lives. Enjoy them. Enjoy them. I love you, folks. This old Texas Paul out. Enjoy some Texas cities at night.